In the far reaches of the galaxy, a civilization is under siege.
We are all that is left.
They've searched the universe for a leader.
Stay tuned for scenes from next week's Galaxy Quest.
Never give up, never surrender.
He will save us!
What they got
Never give up and never surrender.
were struggling TV actors.
You are our last hope.
Where's my limo?
Okie dokie.
And they're about to put on a command performance 8 million light years away.
We are actors, not astronauts.
You are our protectors.
That was a hell of a thing.
Now,
Laredo, take us out.
You gotta move to the right.
Would you sit your ass down? You want to drive this thing?
acting like heroes,
The whole thing was just a misunderstanding.
may not be enough.
They look like little children. Hi, little guy.
Not bad.
DreamWorks Pictures presents Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Galaxy Quest.
You're just gonna have to kill it.
Well, go for the mouth, the throat, his vulnerable spots.
It's a rock. It doesn't have any vulnerable spots.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Hero Network. This is Wheel of Movies, episode 19, under the new regime here, and we are talking about 1999's Galaxy Quest, and we're excited to be talking about that. We are not talking about the Dennis Rodman classic Simon Says. Richie and I pulled a mulligan on that. Not so much that we don't enjoy bad movies and are happy to talk about a bad movie, but that movie's really hard to find without paying a lot of money for it, and we don't want to do that because that movie doesn't deserve it. Sorry. So it's more. This one's much more available, much more widely known. But I'm not alone here. I've got my usual co-host here under the new regime, Wheel of Movies, Richie Goodacre. How's it going, Richie?
Yeah, no, going good. Yeah, no, it was exciting to dive back into this, revisit it. I haven't only seen it a couple of times since the theaters. But yeah, it's good to see it with like fresh eyes, because probably when I saw it in theaters initially, like obviously I wasn't really I was younger, I was a kid, so I wasn't really up on the satire. So then, and sort of when I revisited it the last few times, I've caught a few things that I wouldn't have caught the otherwise. So yeah, no, it was a good time. So yeah, no, this will be fun to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. And we've got a first-timer guest here on Wheel of Movies. He says in his top 100, pretty high, right? Like number 15 or something like that on your list.
This is
high out there for you.
Top 15 of all time. Yeah.
Well, we wanted to find somebody who's a big fan of this movie. We did welcome Michael Wolfman Wyndham. How's it going, Wolfman? How you doing?
By Grabthar's hammer, you shall be avenged. Yes, I've seen this movie an obsessive amount of times whenever I saw it in theaters for a re-release, and I was with a friend, and it was okay to do this because there's very little people in the theater, but we were like quoting every line before it happened. Like, this is just one of my all-time favorites. I have seen it countless numbers of times, and every single time I watch it, I just get even more out of it. So
yeah, no, we'll definitely talk about it. And we'll talk about your fandom. Just a quick couple of things. Yeah, as I said, Galaxy Quest opened on Christmas Day, 1999, a Christmas release of 99 in the great year that was 1999, of course, one of the all-time great years for movies. Directed by Dean Parasot. who's mostly a television director, but has done a couple movies. Did Home Fries with Drew Barrymore.
I forget that movie.
with that goofy curly red wig she's got on in that movie.
That Matt Dillon as well. Is it Matt Dillon? No.
Yeah, the Matt Dillon on the poster. Yeah. So, but yeah, we got that. We got Galaxy Quest. We've got the Jim Carrey movie Fun with Dick and Jane. Directed Red 2, not Red, but Red 2, and then another sequel, Bill and Ted Face the Music. This most recent. So yeah, kind of a weird mix of movies there, but mostly, like I said, a television director. But speaking of 1990, would you gentlemen like to know some of the other movies that were hanging around the top 10 or 15 and what it was up against? Like if you went to the multiplex, what you could also see around Christmas of 1999, just for some context.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's hit it. So, Christmas of 99, kind of going up through the order here. We've got Any Given Sunday, the Oliver Stone movie. We've got the Talented Mr. Ripley.
Great movie.
Stuart Little. You remember Stuart Little?
M. Night Shyamalan written Stuart Little.
That's right. Got Toy Story 2, so that's a good option for the theater. The Green Mile, Frank Darabont. Got On the Moon, speaking of Jim Carrey. Hanging around in theaters. Galaxy Quest, which only opened up number 7. We'll kind of talk about that, but ended up hanging around the top 10 for about 9 weeks, though. So it got kind of a word of mouth following. We got a movie I'll talk about in a minute for a trivia bit, Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams. Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo, hanging around in theaters. and the King, and then kind of getting out of the top 10, but ones that still had a decent, theater. We're still in a decent amount of theaters. We had The World Is Not Enough, the James Bond movie, Sleepy Hollow, End of Days, The Cider House Rules, American Beauty, The Bone Collector, and Three Kings, and Sixth Sense still hanging around for a little while. Also Dogma. So. Some really interesting mix of movies there. You had your pick of some really interesting 1999 stuff there, hanging around.
The majority of you mentioned are good.
Yeah, most of them are pretty good. Even the smaller movies are like pretty good movies. I mean, a couple, and even the ones that aren't so great, like people still talk about Deuce Bigelow. Maybe one of Rob Schneider's better comedies. I mean, Bicentennial Man's an interesting movie and has come up a lot on tournament fights recently, oddly enough. But even kind of bigger disasters like End of Days or World Is Not Enough. People still watch those movies. All this stuff people still watch. Not a whole lot of forgotten movies in there. Maybe and then The King, maybe the most least seen movie out of that whole group.
I don't think I've seen that for sure.
No, I haven't seen it either. But yeah, I mean, just a few trivia bits before we kind of get down into it. The movie was originally conceived as a rated R comedy. They cut it down through a bunch of different drafts. Even the actual original test screening of this was PG-13 that they then cut down to PG. Just to try to appeal to more families. Notoriously, Sigourney Weaver, if she says screw that, originally said fuck that. And dropped an F-bomb. It got a big reaction in the theater, but that would have got him the PG-13.
And you could still see the mouthing.
Yeah, they dubbed it over, but you could still see. And then the scene, when they're about to go into the crunchers, and try to run through that, she says "fuck that" clearly, but they dubbed it. So a couple trims there. Obviously, some of the cast members, Justin Long and Rainn Wilson, their feature films debut, both of them, and both obviously still working today and. Very, very well known. Harold Ramis originally scheduled to direct this movie for the longest time, and even in a little bit of the the actual production of the movie. But he dropped out when the studio actually wanted Tim Allen. He was against the Tim Allen casting and didn't think he was appropriate for it. He wanted Kevin Kline. So can anybody imagine Kevin Kline in that role? Maybe.
I love Harold Ramis, but I think he's wrong on this one.
And he admitted he was wrong later. He said he admitted he saw the movie and he liked Tim Allen's performance. So for what it's worth. But yeah, he was originally slated for it. He didn't want Sigourney Weaver either, just because of the sci-fi connection to Alien. He wanted mostly people who had not done sci-fi. But we'll talk about some of the other cast members as we go. Made $90 million worldwide on a budget of 45, so it made its money back. Just not a huge. Yeah, maybe barely broke even, but obviously gained a following over the years on DVD and kind of through a lot of word of mouth, just like how it hung around at the box office for a little while based on word of mouth. We may talk a little bit more about this later, but a supposed TV series has been in development hell for about 10 years. They've been trying to get off the ground. It has never really happened, hindered obviously by the death of Alan Rickman. If they were to do it, he would not be able to return. But yeah, a few other things I'll break down. But let's go around the horn. Yeah. We'll start with Richie and then we'll get to you, Wolfman. As we get to, the fandom, we'll build up the fandom for this movie as we get to you. Just a history with the movie, your history. I didn't see this in theaters in 99. I think I just missed it. Maybe there was just a lot going on that Christmas and I didn't get around to it. The marketing for this movie was notoriously kind of small. They didn't market this movie very much. And that's why it probably didn't have a better opening than it did. But it's, like I said, gained a following over the years. I've only seen it maybe 5 or 6 times over the years. And but it's funny because every time I watch it, I like it. I don't know what it is. I just don't have that history with it, that connection, despite being a giant Star Trek fan. That's kind of my history. Richie, what about you? You said you haven't seen this in a while.
I've probably seen it like this. Probably this latest viewing is probably my 3rd viewing, so I haven't seen it a lot. But yeah, so I saw it in theaters. I think what initially, obviously, sort of attracted me to the film was what was sort of Tim Allen at the time, because I was big into Home Improvement, and he had Tim Allen was the comedy guy. I'm not like I go back and watch them now. I'm not the biggest fan Tim Allen guy, but like but yeah, he was the one that kind of kind of made me sort of get a ticket, but also and obviously I was a big Star Wars guy, and so that was my kind of reason. That's what got me interested, and obviously just because sort of I think as fan conventions and all that, fan culture sort of has grown, this movie's become more more relevant over the years. So I think that's why that's probably why it's built this cult following. So that's why it's sort of become more and more in the conversation. So that's why I've like sort of checked it out a couple times since then. Just as well, I checked it out this time around too, because I watched it on Netflix this time around, and apparently it informed me that it was going off Netflix in a couple of weeks. So I'm glad
we did it just in time. There we go. No, I think it's off Netflix over here. I know last time I watched it was on Netflix about 6 months ago. So at least it just shifted countries in Netflix, and now it's over you right now. But yeah, we'll talk about the whole geek culture aspect of this movie, because that's definitely a big part of it, of maybe why it's picked up steam over the years. But yeah, Wolfman, you said it's one of your favorite movies. Give us kind of your history when you saw it for the first time and whatnot.
So yeah, I remember when I was a kid, and yes, this kid grew up with Galaxy Quest. All right, I know it's an inside joke about Total Drama Island, but I also grew up with Galaxy Quest. All right.
How old are you again?
26.
Okay, so you were like 2 when this movie came out or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I watched it more so around when I was like 5 and on,
I was about to go into high school when this movie came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was about 3 years old, but I watched it when I was like 5, and I remember ever since then I was like, I loved the little aliens, the ones that were like, lost hope. Like I remember loving them as a kid, and I was just like, and I just loved the world that they created, and I remember just being kind of blown away by the visuals. Like I thought it looked outstanding even when I was a kid. I was like, it was one of the most mind-blowing things I ever saw to me at one point, because of just the way the main bad guy looks.
You obviously hadn't seen a little movie that also came out in 99 called The Matrix. So.
At that time, no, I grew up with this before I went to The Matrix later. Right, for sure, but no, I was like, I guess my mom was like, well, the Matrix might scare him, so let's show him Galaxy Quest instead. So I grew up on this one, and yeah, this was back when spoof movies used to be good. I remember those days with Spaceballs and Galaxy Quest and just so many other good ones. And this might be the best of the bunch. There's a reason why Trekkies say this is their Star Trek movies. Like their Star Trek fans have embraced this as like the best Star Trek movie now, even though it's not even a Star Trek movie.
Well, we could talk about that. I have my bone to pick with those people who voted on that in the 2013 Star Trek convention and voted this like the number 7 Star Trek movie of all time, because it's not a Star Trek movie, dummies. What are we doing? Like, I get that it's an homage to Star Trek, but like, it's not a Star Trek movie. Like, what are we doing? So I don't know.
But you know, a movie is so good whenever they have to include it in the.
I know, but it's really good. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's not a Star Trek movie. It's a love letter to Star Trek.
but and it's just ever since then I've seen this film so many times. It's one of my go-to films that when I'm feeling down or if I'm feeling low and I just need like to be cheered up or something like that, I always pop in either this or Princess Bride, and it's one of those two. I just like those are my go-to kind of cheer me up movies, and so I've seen this film countless times. I can practically quote it from like every line now, and it's stuck with me for so long. And like Richie said, it's very relevant and has left that impact on me of just being a fan and not afraid to be a fan and not afraid to show your true colors of fandom, you know? So.
No, we'll definitely talk about that because that's a big part of the movie. Brian mentioned that documentary we were talking about before the show went live that Screen Junkies did for the anniversary. I haven't seen it personally, but I know I'm aware of it. But let's kind of get into this movie and the cast and kind of what's going on with it, because we get kind of a cool opening, a little bit of the greatest hits, if you will, of this Galaxy Quest TV show within the movie. Obviously, if you're a fan of Star Trek original series, it's very, very similar to that. Kind of the opening credits, the flashes of all the cast, and all the kind of cheesy lines and effects and everything. And you get a little bit of that, but it goes into a great opening and some of my favorite stuff at the sort of Comic-Con type event. We got this Galaxy Quest. I forget, is it like an actual Galaxy Quest thing or is it just like a sci-fi convention? I think it's just like a Galaxy Quest convention, right? I think
it feels Galaxy Quest because
because everybody is dressed up as Galaxy Quest characters, I think, so if I remember correctly. So it's like, which is funny because Galaxy Quest is so popular, they actually have their own conventions now. Like they're smaller, but they have their own conventions.
Oh right, yeah. Well, I mean, this is definitely similar to in the 80s when they started doing actual Star Trek conventions that William Shatner and some of those guys would go to, that weren't as big as they are now, obviously, but it seems kind of appropriate. At least I think they got sort of the look and feel of it down, with everybody dressed up, and they're not really like, and I think it's actually a fairly respectful thing of the fans, because you do have those fans that are a little more into it than other ones. You got a little more casual ones. You got some of the ladies who are there who like Tim Allen a little bit, then you get that and Tim's kind of, or I should say Captain or Commander Nesbitt, Jason Nesbitt, whatever his name, because I want to call him, because he's got 3 names, because he's like, it's Tim Allen playing an actor playing the commander. So it's like, I don't know what to call him.
Playing a spoof of William Shatner, kind of.
Playing a dude. A little bit. Yeah, dude playing a dude dressed as another dude. Did want to mention a trivia bit about there's the scene where he goes to the bathroom and those guys are kind of talking shit, about everybody, about the actors. That came from a William Shatner story where he said he heard the same thing at like an 80s convention in the bathroom while he was in the stall. That people just talking shit, saying like these guys are washed up, they're just nobodies, clinging onto a TV show. So at least go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, what I found funny about that scene is just how times have changed. They're like, well, why would they pay $15 a pop for this? I'm like,
$15. I'm like, I wish.
$15 a pop is cheap.
You can I don't think anybody, even the lowest D-level star charges $15 at a
Yeah.
convention
Nowadays it's like the cheapest you'll find is $80 or something.
I would say
or
I've seen 40 or 50, but yeah,
40 or
like
50
yeah,
sometimes,
that's like what Samoa Joe would charge at a convention. It's like $40 or $50 or something like that. But yeah, no, nowadays, somebody like a Shatner or whatever, it's like $200 minimum, something like that for an autograph.
I've had so many chances to meet William Shatner at GalaxyCon because he's at every single one near me, and I might meet him when I go again in July. But it's like one of those situations where I don't ever go there to meet him because I'm like, well, he's just going to be at the next one, and I'm just going to keep on doing that until eventually he dies, and I'll just miss my opportunity.
But no, it's good stuff here. Yeah, with Nesmith kind of at the front and center. The guy who the big star who everybody loves, and everybody else they like him, but he's clearly the star of the show. And they kind of Rickman's the best because he's just he nails the character of like the guy who wanted to be the dramatic actor who got stuck typecast as this guy and never got a chance to like really do what he really wanted to do, and he's so good.
I love it when they're at the him and Sigourney they have to do like was it an opening to they're at
the grocery store. Oh no, they're at an electronics store. Yeah,
they're at an electronics store. I think it's like just begrudgingly doing his line.
Buy grab those hammer. What a savings! It's just like he's just so he plays it. He plays the part just so well, and I agree that honestly, Galaxy Quest would not be the same without him. Like it just every one of these characters. I mean, and that's not knocking another one. Like every single one of them is perfect in their roles, but it's like they get to that point of being so perfect and work so well together that you can't have one without the other. So I feel that way, especially with Alan Rickman, who is a scene stealer in this movie for sure.
Yeah, no, he's perfect. And the second comedy that he was in that year, because remember he was in Dogma the same year as the voice of God. So but yeah, we also have, like we said, Sigourney Weaver, we mentioned him, but she kind of laments the fact that she was just there for the eye candy essentially, and just to repeat the line, sort of like her in the original series is just there to kind of relay information from a computer, and that's all she has to do most of the time. Sigourney, by the way, had a prosthetic on that made her bigger, so to speak.
But that being said, though, she's still she's hot in this movie.
She looks amazing. No, she's super sexy in this movie. No, 100%. I don't know what it is. The blonde wig, everything. Just like she looks really, really good in this movie. Yeah, definitely. I can't disagree with that. but no, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, I feel like that's part of the commentary too. Is just how, because a lot of the shows like Star Trek or a lot of the kind of sci-fi stuff that we saw back in the day, you remember Captain Kirk, you remember, these other characters, but you don't really remember like the female characters much because of like the way they were written on screen. Yeah. So it's like, it kind of addresses that and makes that part of the
bit she has about that she did like an interview one time where all they asked about was her boobs is based on an actual real life thing with Jerry Ryan, with 7 of 9 from Star Trek Voyager, who's also on Picard recently, and she would wear like the bodysuit. She's basically just mostly there and cast for the eye candy. That happened to her. She had an interview where they basically just asked her how she fit into her bodysuit for like 6 minutes, just this whole thing. So actually, again, they've got the in tune on how this kind of stuff goes. So it's pretty good.
I totally forgot until obviously the opening scene that Sam Rockwell was in this movie.
Yeah, no, we had it in the Sam Rockwell tournament recently, and this is again he's still breaking out as kind of a character actor this time, and he's kind of appropriately playing a lesser known actor, a guy who's just clinging on to this a guy who showed up in like one episode, basically a red shirt, like Star Trek, and he's sort of trying to grasp on, hey, you want me to sign some stuff too, and being kind of the MC guy, trying to, hey, you guys remember that one opening scene where I died? No, he's great. And from what I read, he based a lot of his performance on Bill Paxton in Aliens, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He's just constantly like freaking out and I don't want to die. And like,
which is why when y'all did your recasting, I selected Sam Rockwell, because I was like, I just felt like if you were going to recast Bill Paxton, I mean, he it definitely inspired it off of that. And it's interesting that apparently in the documentary, Sam Rockwell said himself, he actually turned it down initially. Like he wasn't going to do it because he read the script and thought like, this sounds ridiculous. I don't know. I don't think this is really going to work. And then apparently his like girlfriend at the time said like, what are you doing? Like you have a chance to work with these people. You have like all this stuff. And she talked him into kind of taking the role later. So.
Yeah, no, and then we have Daryl Mitchell as Tommy. He's mostly been a TV actor since then, been on a bunch of sitcoms and whatnot. And Tony Shalhoub, of course, who was starting to break out around this time. You know, he'd done the Men in Black thing, done like a characters. Yeah, he looks exactly the same now. Yeah, I mean, he's aged a little bit, but like he's another one of those guys that was just kind of born 40. You know, it just is always it kind of looks the same. But yeah, he's great. It's kind of this. Yeah, he's just kind of another guy who's sort of along for the ride. And you know, I love the bit later with him when he's when the core is like going down. He's just like, you know, they're telling me the core's failing or something. You know, we should probably do something about that. That's pretty great.
Just like, and then whenever he gets zapped in, he's heating up something in the microwave, and like so he loses track of all the other people, and then they get zapped up into the ship, and then later on he gets zapped up, and he's just like, that was a hell of a thing. Just a way that he just like.
Well, and actually, there's a bit about him and the Missy Pyle like sort of relationship that developed. That was a Steven Spielberg thing. Spielberg, you know, was able to visit the set one day, and he read the script and whatnot, and just said, you know, they should have some kind of little subplot going on. Yeah, and I like their little. You know, their little sort of romantic thing, that the looks that they give each other all the time. You know, she's always kind of giving him the eyeball, and the fact that he doesn't reject it at the end, and she puts like tentacle around him, and he just, you know, he's like, it's almost like Gremlins 2. Remember the end of Gremlins 2 with him and the female gremlin? What's his name? Robert Picardo. Speaking of Star Trek, by the way, he's just like, why not? You know, let's just roll with it and see what happens. But he's great. But by the way, Missy Pyle also super adorable in this movie. Super cute. I might do the same thing. Just saying, she's ridiculously adorable. But yeah, that kind of gets us to the Thermians. Misty Pyle's one of them, and the main one, you know, doing his little line delivery. He was so good, and they liked it so much that they actually modeled all the other aliens. Like they basically told them to act like him. Essentially, they just liked that tone and the way that they moved and everything, and his performance, that they kind of catered it to everybody else. And I think it really, really works.
The costume designer reminded me of like later on, like, you know, at the aliens and Dude, Where's My Car? The kind of the costume design of it. But yeah, the aliens, his performance was great. And just like and I just like the first interaction he has with like to Mel, and it's that gig, just bring me a limo,
He thinks, that's
and that's so the way he pokes the stomach, he's like. That little thing
I like that little bit that he thinks he's going to like a fan film, which Shatner actually did a few fan films here and there. He did a one with Robert Meyer Burnett actually called Free Enterprise that he appears in, which is essentially kind of a glorified fan film. He thinks he's just going to, you know, some group of guys' basement, you know, with some bad, you know, sets or whatnot, and he's going to do a little bit on a fan film, but he's not like ashamed to do it. He's just like, do what you gotta do for money, right? Like, you know, it's a gig, and that's what he thinks he's going to do. Again, a little touch of like, this movie's so ahead of its time as far as, you know, we didn't really start to know about this like fan film and geek culture like that really until the 2000s and the 2010s especially. So I mean, I think this movie came out at the wrong time. You put this movie out in like, you know, 2010, 2015, like, and I think it kills and does gangbusters.
Well, and that's why it still is doing so well, and it will get re-released in theaters, and people will go back to it all the time because of just how culturally significant it is. And that's also very relevant to like the washed-up actor. The washed-up actor is looking for something to do, you know, and a lot of times they're like, oh, hey, there's this little fan film here that's, you know, someone's doing. Okay, sure, I'll do that. And they're like, they haven't worked in ages, but they want to, you know, kind of go and be in something different. And so that's what you get. I've seen fan films that have casted like some, like there was a Friday the 13th one that had the original Alice from Friday the 13th and such like that in
Yeah,
there.
I've
So
seen
like
some of those, yeah.
there's some of those fan films like that online. So it's very timely in that manner. And yeah, at conventions I've seen so many people dress up as the aliens in this, and it's just and the way that they all perform their parts is just completely 100%, and the cat and the rest of the cast bouncing off of them is so seamless, and it just they flow together perfectly. So
You know what a good double feature of this would be? Like, if I don't know if theaters have done this, but a double feature of this would be a good with like fanboys.
Fanboys, yeah, because that's basically like the one they did, for Star Wars, essentially, and just these nerds who just love Star Wars so much, it's just a part of their lives. It's great. But yeah, we kind of get into sort of the crux of the movie. They grab Jason and they take him up to the ship, and he thinks he's doing this thing, and we meet Saris, who kind of our villain of the movie, this general, who wants the Omega 13 device, and we don't find out what that is or what it does till the end of the movie. We kind of keep the mystery about that. But he quickly finds out that this is kind of for real, as he gets, he just is just sipping on his, Coke or whatever. It's just like, load the things and fire the thing. Just that'll do it. That sounds good. Just blowing off the whole thing. Again, I think Tim Allen's really good in this movie. Just playing like the sort of washed up actor who's just clinging on to the one thing, but it's also kind of narcissistic. Like, I think he's awesome.
Yeah. And then he when it doesn't occur to him until he gets like blasted back to Earth. When it looks the goo thing where they like blasted. It looks weird. It looks like he's in like a giant condom.
It's kind of some kind of liquid. It looks like a combination of that and like when Zod is getting about to put into the Phantom Zone and like Man of Steel, like kind of it like circles around him and like kind of encompasses him, and seems like they're kind of freezing when they come back, like they're kind of stuck there, just sort of shivering and whatnot. It's good stuff. He's able to. Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out, because you were talking about the character of Saris, and I want to also give a shout out to Robin Sachs. I think is how you say his name. Like he performed that part extremely well, and I thought he was very menacing. And I thought the makeup effects for what this movie, it's a spoof movie, but it looks good, like better than a lot of like alien effects that we see in movies today, which was very impressive. And I thought that like he was also really funny. Like after Tim Allen says this whole thing, he's like, "Am I still too ugly and an idiot to he's like says some quippy lines in there too that like makes it.
What do you think more... I'm stupid? I could still hear you. This communication is fun. He's a good little villain who kind of starts out a little cartoony back and forth, but obviously gets a little serious later. They're able to get the rest of the crew, so to speak, up into the ship and show them it's real. Obviously, Sam Rockwell's freaking out because he realizes he's probably the cannon fodder and then thinks to himself that he's going to be the first one to die. His freakouts are a lot of fun. We got to go on this mission to stop Saris. We get on the actual ship, and it's just so cool the way he's like, we based the ship on this whole basically every frame of the television show, like every corridor, every room, every control, or like, oh, hey, you control the ship. Oh, they base it on your movement. So if you just turn it this way, that's how it does. And they just base it on it. It's really great.
They don't call it TV show. They call it a historical document.
The historical documents. Yeah. Show them the historical documents. And the little reference they make to Gilligan's Island later, where he's like, oh, those poor souls on the island. Like they're really stuck on that island. That's a nice little touch. I like that. Yeah. They take television super seriously. They don't know what fiction is because that obviously comes later.
They call them the historic documents that they are saying instead of a TV episode.
We kind of get into this thing. They get into a little bit of a battle with Saris once they're there. They get their ship damaged, that kind of spinning core thing, and the Omega 13 is kind of our MacGuffin, but we have to have our little side quests here. You know, we got to fix the ship after the battle and go down to that to the rock planet, aka Utah, where they filmed it at a national park in Utah. Which of course it is. There was a trivia bit about they filmed it at this national park in Utah, and in exchange for filming there, the production team paved a couple of the roads that went into the park. That was the exchange. So there was just some dirt roads, and they paved everything as part of the budget. So hey, good for them. Got something out of it.
I assume when I ever see like if I see like like a rocky, they're in some sort of rocky sort of location, it's either gonna be like Utah or something. I don't know. Just
basically, yeah. No, it looks very similar to the opening of like Last Crusade, when they have the caves in there. That was shot in actual Utah. Yeah, anything that looks like that is you're usually not far off. But yeah, I mean, we get a couple of bits that are obviously kind of homages to original Star Trek with the little miners that are running around. There's a good little joke about Tony Shalhoub thinks they're miners, like 2-year-olds instead of miners. Like miners, not miners. And they turn out to be little vicious little creatures. And Sam Rockwell actually has the smart bit there where he's like, haven't you even seen the show? Like, you never trust a little alien running around, a little cute alien. Vicious little creature. And Tim Allen's got to kind of run away and fight a rock monster. Not the greatest special effect in the movie, I'll say, but I think it's almost kind of intentional, though. It's sort of made to look sort of like a cheesy 70s creature or something like that. I took it as kind of intentionally put that way.
Yeah, I think so.
For whatever reason, I can't explain why. I think it's the actor's delivery is in that scene whenever they transport that animal to, and he like turns inside out. For whatever reason, the way the actor says it after it explodes is like, and it exploded. It's like one of the hardest laughs I have. I don't know why.
Turned it inside out, and it exploded. He's like, did you just say it exploded?
It's just like, because he's just like, I guess it's like he just has a smile on his face while it's just like all this
just
on him. And
the race of aliens is just very matter of fact and like honest. Well, because they don't know. Well, they don't know how to lie. They don't know how to smooth things over. That comes into play later.
And I guess in the fact that the line "and exploded" was delivered like that was just like an after, like that wasn't the most pertinent part of the thing. And it exploded. Oh, okay. But yeah, that was funny.
No, it's good stuff. Yeah, but yeah, they get back to the ship, they fix it, but kind of become under siege again with Saris. And this is where the movie kind of takes a little more of a dramatic turn. And I remember the first time I saw this scene where Saris is actually kind of torturing Mathazar, for information about the Omega-13, and especially the bit where he's like shocking him and he kind of goes into his true form and then like back to the human form, kind of, into the sort of squid-looking creature, that they really are, like every time he shocks him, and then and Tim Allen kind of has to reveal the truth, which they have a nice spin on at the end of the movie, but tell them that they're just actors, they're pretend, they're fiction, essentially, that they lied because they don't know anything about that. And it's kind of a heartbreaking scene actually when you watch it,
especially because Saris mentioned something that is very true. Mathazar is a lot like a child, and he's like, say it to him as if he were a child, and then he pretty much has to explain it to him that way, and you see him react like he's a little kid who's like who just heard the Santa Claus isn't real,
right? Yeah.
And so it's like
finds out that the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy aren't real, and all these things that you thought you knew was completely wrong.
And mention Tim Allen having to break that too. And by the way, I was the Santa Claus, and that's not real.
I wonder if they have a copy of the movie The Santa Claus with Tim Allen and think he's actually Santa Claus. That's a nice little coincidence, a callback. But they kind of Saris is taking over the ship. He's gonna slowly kind of kill all the other aliens in the room, by slowly kind of sucking the oxygen out. But they're able to kind of the crew's able to kind of overcome it and have a little fake fight. I love the little fake fight he has with Alan Rickman. You seen stealing hack, you narcissistic, asshole, all this stuff. And they have a little fight, but Rickman actually punches him. He's like, man, you used to pull your punches. What happened? He's like, well, you kind of deserved it. And it's a good little fun fight with them kind of getting the better of him. And then this is where sort of the Justin Long character kind of comes back into the movie because we see him earlier in the movie trying to settle a dispute between him and his geek buddies, asking Jason about like, when you went this way, it's supposed to work this way, and he's just like, dude, it's a TV show.
I'm sure like actors get those sort of questions at Comic-Con.
Oh, they do.
Oh yeah.
I would. Yeah, I can. They have more patience than I would if I was at Comic-Con. So I'm like, it's a movie show.
There was an SNL sketch that kind of addressed stuff like that. There was a William Shatner thing where in SNL he was at like a Star Trek convention, and one of the questions is like, now in episode 19, you spun the thing this way when you really should have done this thing. And he's just like, for God's sakes, it's just a TV show. And that's the whole like get a life people thing that they did on SNL. Because I would imagine they get questions like that, and it's probably kind of annoying.
And I can definitely see like, there's a part of it where it's like, they definitely show that it does annoy the actors and that you're watching it and you're like, man, these people just need to get a life. They're like super obsessed with it. But at the same time, it's very, it honors the fan base so much by saying like, no, our fan base is so important because at the end of the day, he is the one that saves the day.
Right. No, he's the true kind of hero. Yeah. And that's why this movie again is super ahead of its time. You released this movie in 2012 or something when the heroes basically behind the scenes are the super geeks that obsess over every frame of everything and know the blueprints of the ship and know the layouts and know exactly where to go and have everything memorized. Kind of are the heroes. It's a nice little homage to them.
Back when this movie was released, being called a nerd and a geek was actually a full-on insult. Like bullies would use it to insult others. Nowadays, nerds and geeks, like that term is like embraced. Like people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Star Wars nerd. Oh yeah, I'm a Star Trek nerd. I'm a geek of this," and it's like it's cool now. So,
Richie, were you gonna say something? Sorry. Yeah.
No. I mean, you'd rather probably nerds and geeks. You embrace that. So it's like then I don't think like there's. It's not really it's not an insult. We look back on like nerds throughout like history. If it wasn't for nerds, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Nerds created the internet. Nerds created streaming things. Nerds created cell phones. Nerds created computers. Bill Gates is a nerd. He's one of the like some of the richest people in the world.
Jobs.
Some of the richest people in history are geeks and nerds that created a bunch of stuff and got famous for it. That was happening around this time too. Even around the time this movie came out, is Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and those guys are really emerging as like actual figures, and kind of household names for what they're putting out there. But you make this movie now, or like I said, 10 years ago or something like that. And, let's say, what if you made, something similar to this, like a superhero movie, and they had to consult the comic book nerds who know every issue, every page of everything and know how to defeat the bad guys or know how to, everybody's powers and, did something like that. It would go over great.
Yeah.
So, so we get a little bit of that. Yeah, they contact Justin Long. He gets his other buddies on the horn, the other ones who have the layouts and the blueprints and everything, and they're telling them, take a left turn here, take a right turn there, and they have all the ridiculous things like the crushing machines. It's just like, why is this in the thing? Well, it was in the episode. Well, that was poorly written episode.
Whoever wrote this episode should die.
What purpose does this even serve to have this near the core? This is so stupid. But again, it's those things we didn't. The writers of a show wouldn't think about anybody taking it seriously or actually happening in real life. It's just a dumb obstacle they have to overcome, and it's a lot of fun.
And I do want to also mention too, just the whole fact that you have very little to do in the movie, but it's just seeing Justin Long's character he's like, hey, Mom, I gotta do this thing. I gotta do this thing. And, she wants him to take out the trash and do all this stuff. He has to run out, take the trash out, do all this stuff. And run back inside. She's saying all this stuff that she does not understand. She's like, okay, just be home back in time for dinner and all that stuff.
Well, when he's going out with the fireworks and he's like, well, we got a call from him and, they're coming into the atmosphere too hot at Mark 15, which is obviously too fast to make a safe landing, obviously, as if she knows what the hell he's talking about. And he's just like, and then, so we got to give him a signal so they can slow it down. I mean, she's just like, all right, I'll be back later.
You have fun.
Yeah. And the dad's like, or she's like, well, at least he's outside, that kind of thing. So it's like,
no, it's definitely, again, he's not like a suspender, glasses, pocket protector wearing nerd. He's just like a kid who that's his favorite TV show and he loves it. So again, it's not like Revenge of the Nerds where they're all like pocket protecting, suspender wearing nerds. But that movie, they are still the heroes and the whatnot, but it's a much more kind of modernized version of that. But yeah, they do start getting the help, but they're kind of turning things around and taking the ship back over, and they think they've kind of defeated everybody. They get near home, and they have that moment. I remember the first time I saw the scene where Saris comes back in, kind of disguised as Tony Shalhoub, and starts shooting everybody. It's actually a pretty horrifying scene, just seeing everybody get shot. The kid pilot gets shot, Sigourney Weaver gets shot. You're just like, whoa, this movie just took kind of a turn. What's good? What are they doing here? It was a pretty rough little scene.
And Tony Shalhoub just had a breakdown.
I was like, it's like no wonder it's always the quiet ones,
My name is Tony Shalhoub. I'm not Monk. Stop calling me Monk.
Yes, call me by my real name. Damn it.
Talking about an actor who's been typecasted in a role now. It's like everyone just thinks Tony Shalhoub is Monk, and it's like, and some of these actors, have had to deal with typecasting too, which makes it even more relevant because you get Alan Rickman, who's kind of typecasted as either Hans Gruber.
Early on, he was afraid he was going to be typecasted as a villain, and even then, what was his other famous role? Snape in Harry Potter, the villain. I mean, he did that, but that's why he wanted to do roles like this and Dogma. He loved comedy. He loved kind of breaking the mold because he can do that dramatic delivery, but in a comedic context, like when he's doing that. That, like you said, the supermarket opening when he's just doing that dry delivery. It's very funny. He has really good timing in this movie. And him just being the pissed off actor is funny without him, making yuck, punchline jokes. It's really good stuff. But we find out what the Omega-13 is. It's a time machine for 13 seconds. You can go 13 seconds back in time. So they activate it. He hits it. It kind of goes back to right before Saris comes in, and they're able to kind of take him out and take him down. So but again, temporarily they crash land into the convention appearance again, into the building, kind of make their way out. They kill Saris eventually once he tries to get him again, and we get all the crew kind of again, another convention. They all think it's part of the show. It's like, oh, what a great entrance! What amazing! No, you just destroyed the building. The building's literally destroyed. It's like a special effect. I mean, this thing just ran into the wall.
Which I just gotta give credit where credit's due. I've never memorized the composer's name, but
it's David Newman. Yeah, great score for this movie.
The great
really
score,
fun.
Yeah. It's actually really, it goes underrated.
No, it's very old sci-fi, kind of adventure, let's go get them type of a score. It really matches the movie, quite well. So shout out to David Newman for doing this.
Is there something to do with the last name Newman and being a famous composer? They got David Newman, you got Thomas Newman,
Randy Newman. I don't know. Oh, in theaters the same time as a Randy Newman score with Toy Story 2. So maybe it's a good one. Any of you Newmans out there, go into film scores. Apparently, you'll get really famous. But they kind of they get their heroic moment. Jason kind of lets them kind of share the spotlight as well, and we get a really great sort of epilogue where it's Galaxy Quest: The Journey Continues, and we get to see sort of the opening credits of the revival series. Bringing back the whole cast. They each get their kind of bits in there. Missy Pyle's a part of the cast now, with Tony Shalhoub as like the love interest, and then Guy gets a part as the security chief, so he gets to be a part of the actual cast, which is again a nice little.
He went from crewman number 6 to
the security chief, whatever his name is, and I love his little bit of the opening credits because he kind of strolls in. He's got this like swagger, and he looks at the camera. He's just like, "Hey," he just keeps walking like he's so happy to just be part of the actual cast now. Yeah, it's really really great, and it's a perfect button on it, like having a little revival series. So it's a really nice wrap up. I mean, we talk about those movies that again, they may not be our personal favorites, but those movies that are kind of perfect in their structure. I feel like this is kind of one of those perfect movies that I don't really have a whole lot of nitpicks or complaints about. I think the comedic beats are kind of perfect. I think all the character chemistry, like we talked about, is kind of perfect between all the cast members. Everybody plays their parts really, really well. And again, it's a really nice sort of satirical, send up of sci-fi. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I completely 100% agree, because I'm like, for whatever reason, every single time I rewatch this, I can't think of any flaw whatsoever. Like not a single one. Maybe at the most, maybe some I could think of, maybe the effects look slightly dated, but like that's not anything. Some of the effects, but again,
I think it matches the tone of the television show within the movie that they're basing on, kind of. So even I don't have really many complaints about that.
So either way, it's like because it delivers exactly what you want. It delivers a thrilling, hilarious, just kind of buddy space movie that is an homage to Star Trek and an homage to fandom, and it delivers exactly what it promises and then some. So
Richie.
I really enjoy this. It's just an easy, great sci-fi parody without kind of that being like too very very go like straying towards like cringy or obvious sort of humor, but you're being very clever. The chemistry is great. I love this film. I think it has the sort of, it holds up because they had this, and they could see into the future with how maybe how fandom would have almost evolved, and I think it's I think it works on so many levels, and it's a lot of fun. I don't think we don't really get movies like this anymore, and hopefully at some stage we will, because I think obviously there's creators out there that do get it and could make something like this. So I really do. I enjoyed going back into this into this universe, and it was a lot of fun. I guess if the closest thing these days, if you ever watch, it's not obviously it's not the same at all, but in terms of great humor, as far as and Star Trekian is the Orville, which is very funny, which is a good show. Yeah. So, this movie rules. So
and then also a USS Callister episode of Black Mirror too is another.
Yeah, that Black Mirror episode. I don't know if you've seen that one, Richie, with Jesse Plemons, or how much.
I need to catch up on Black Mirror, but
there's an episode. I think it's the first episode of season 4. I think something like that, and it's really great. It's Jesse Plemons. It's Alison Brie. It's got a really good cast, but it's about a guy who kind of has a who creates sort of a Star Trek-ish, sort of world that he can go into, in his computer and whatnot. But there's some twists to it, obviously, that I won't spoil too much. But the actual homages in that one are pretty damn good as well. Like when you actually see it, yeah, it's pretty great. And yeah, if this movie were made now, the nerds that they would contact would be like people who do the podcasts breaking down every episode of Star Trek, or there's the remember there was I don't know if you guys know, there was a podcast called Star Wars Minute where they broke down Star Wars 1 minute at a time every episode, for little 20-minute episodes, and literally break down like every frame and every line, all that. I mean, it would be stuff like that, right? Yeah. I mean, so yeah, this movie, yeah, that's the reason it's held up so well, is because. Yeah, I mean, 25 years later on the 25th anniversary of this movie, it's aged like wine because, yeah, like Richie, like you said, I guess they saw into the future and saw how geek culture would go. I mean, that people would be obsessed with things like this and, would use the internet to pine over little things and whatnot and dissect every piece of every nostalgia TV show and everything in it. But it really, really works. But it's not in a condescending way. It's in kind of a respectful, loving way.
And speaking of 25th anniversary, would you we own it on Blu-ray, but I would love for the 25th anniversary to release like a 4K remaster of it on physical media.
I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Yeah, like a steelbook or something,
or something like that. Like a
steelbook. No, they get like a because as much as the Blu-ray cover's okay, but I feel like they could do a cool art cover steelbook or something and do some cool.
Like homage, like Wrath of Khan's poster or something, or put something
or make it like within the context of the TV show and have like a cool kind of maybe like a 70s sort of cover type of thing. That would be all right.
Yeah, that would be. And like you were talking about with the podcasters and such, I mean, all of us on this stream right now are geeks and nerds, and because we do this stuff for like just for fun, like I run a channel for fun because I love movies. You guys run a channel for fun because y'all love movies and all that stuff, and we just all celebrate in our fandom and have a culture here, and that's just like what this movie embraces. And
when you think about like the internet in general, like, there's that Reddit now, like Reddit has like
that's all Reddit's for. Yeah,
it has subcategories for everything.
And I will say this though, that if you were to have made this movie in today's climate, it would have addressed the issue of toxic fandom as well, because that is also a thing. I feel like the movie doesn't really address that. But it's I
think we could talk about again some of the follow-ups they talk about. I think a sequel could address that if they ever did a sequel. Maybe people that take the fandom of Galaxy Quest too far, or maybe the fandom is split on maybe where the series of the Galaxy Quest continues or whatever went with the show, or if it was if they got some controversial stuff in there. I mean this is kind of. Not as either a sequel or the TV idea has been in kind of development hell for the last 10 years or so. Because in the research that I did, even goes back as 2014, they were talking about doing a TV, follow up to this, and then it started to get off the ground. And then Alan Rickman passed away in 2016, sadly, obviously. So that kind of put a break on everything. He obviously had a major role in the scripts that were floating around. It's going to have a major part. Then there was talks of a sequel movie instead of a TV show that kind of puttered around for a little while. And now it's been back to some of the cast members, like people like Sam Rockwell and whatnot, saying that it's back to potentially being like a Peacock TV show or something. Yeah. So, but nothing official.
Ooh. And I just came up with like the perfect idea. So, how like Alan Rickman's character, he wanted to be that dramatic actor and all this stuff. What you could do is make it, but have him like say like now he's off doing all of these, like he's an Oscar winner, he's all this stuff, he's finally doing what he wanted to do, and they recast him in the role, and like the recast is what makes the toxic fandom.
The people get pissed off at the show and everything. How dare you recast the actor?
Because they recast him, and they're like, "How dare you do that?" That kind of thing. That would be like a
how dare you recast the actor even though the other actor didn't want to do it anymore? Yeah.
The actor said he despised being on the show and then hated doing it.
Yeah. No, it could work, but that's a good idea actually. And on that along those lines, but people and these days too, like if there's some people like will watch a show and just to see something problematic, like, oh, that doesn't hold up anymore. So and then the cast and crew have to answer to something that happened years,
or they could just answer to Sigourney Weaver being cast as just like a sex pot on the show, and the female characterizations, and the fact that actually Tony Shalhoub's character is like Chen, like he was supposed to be like an Asian character, but he's not. Like you could address that. But the thing of like he's not an Asian actor and he's playing an Asian character, like that's toxic. That's or the show gets like canceled, so to speak, in quotations, not like literally, but like the people turn on it, for its stereotypes or I mean, there's things you could address now, that I think could work, and they could address things with geek fandom, through the eyes of the show and whatnot, and all the fans and all the controversy they have now. Oh, the show's gone woke and all the bullshit, what I mean, shit like that, things like that, like they could address it. I think it'd be kind of interesting. There's material there that I think
they could make Sigourney Weaver's character like almost like a co-lead or something in the new interpretation of Galaxy Quest, and they're woking it up because they're making
they made her the captain.
It's like they made her the captain, like something like that. She's like the captain of the show or something. There's so much.
Maybe like Tim Allen takes like a hiatus from the show and they make her captain and everybody freaks out or something.
It's been brought by Disney or something. So now she's a captain, and then the rest of the cast are black females. And it's like, you're like, what the hell?
Put a chick in it, make her lame and gay, like the South Park thing. No, I mean, you can address stuff like that. Yeah, you could have maybe a thing where they bring the show back, but all the original characters are like background, and we got all these new characters who are taking the spotlight, and people don't like that. Like you could, do stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's ideas that if you did it right, especially in a TV show, not trying to cram it in a 90-minute movie, if you stretch it out over like a season or something like that, each episode could kind of address something like that, and I think it could work while still showing them, kind of still having these adventures on the show or whatever. You could bounce back and forth between the meta world and kind of the, the actual space adventures. Like, there's something there. I think it could work. So we'll see if it actually happens. The last I saw is it was still just being tooled around and hasn't been anything concrete. So, I don't know. If they're ever going to do it, they got to do it now, because it's not like the cast members are getting any younger. So,
the only thing is with Tim Allen, like Tim Allen has some controversy as well too. Like some people will say they don't like to work with him and all this kind of stuff, and it's kind of political. Like it's a political thing against kind of Tim Allen. So I don't know.
But at the same time, he's still working. Like he's doing that Santa Claus show and stuff. Like he's still around. Like So I don't know.
I just feel like hopefully, we'll have to get to a point where it's like, unless it's like really bad, but like it's just like, look, as long as like he doesn't force his political beliefs on the sets, like you can work together. Just work together.
Unless he's like stopping production to make a speech about something, you know what I mean? Like who cares? Like he can have his own stuff offset, do whatever. But when it comes to taking care of business, it is what it is. So we'll see if anything comes around. But that's basically Galaxy Quest. We'll go on the horn. Everybody kind of any other little final thoughts or points about the movies? Wolf, anything?
I just that it is not only one of the best kind of spoof movies out there, if not the best spoof movie, but it's like a great homage to the fandom, and this is also one of the best like sci-fi movies because it just gets you feeling what you want in a sci-fi movie, the adventure, the like you're going on this space journey with these characters and such, and that's how Star Wars makes you feel. That's how Star Trek makes you feel. It gives you that same kind of emotion, and so this is always going to stand the test of time and just be a timeless classic and absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time. Absolutely, and I will say the line for you, Alan Rickman: by Grabthar's hammer, you shall be avenged.
Never give up, never surrender. That's right. Richie, any quick final thoughts and whatnot about the movie and your rewatch?
I think this holds up. It's obvious. I think that the right word there is timeless. I think it is not only of its time, it's ahead of its time. It's kind of of its time, it's ahead of its time. the social commentary in this is bang on. And yeah, it does it in a very, intelligent way without being demeaning. And it's just a really, really fun film, and I enjoyed it. And it's probably something I could see myself going back to, maybe in like yearly or so. So yeah, that's fun. It was fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, again, it really, really works. We talk about, movies that age well because they were ahead of their time, or they don't, there's nothing super dated in the movie other than maybe a little bit of the internet stuff. But even that, like, they're just, they're like, oh, we're all hopping on the the feed together and we're just sharing our stuff. Like, even that was like, didn't really, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, again, they've got a lot of the Comic-Con stuff, type of things right. A lot of the fandoms right. The nostalgia kind of stuff for the old shows. The nostalgia is big right now. So, I mean, that's very, very relevant now for, as far as picking apart, every little frame of these shows. Just really good script writing. Really great performances and characters all around. And yeah, I could see why people like you, Wolf, would say it's kind of a comfort movie, or just one of those movies you can just pop on and have a good time for an hour and a half. So yeah, I totally get it. But we'll go on the horn one last time. Any plugs, anywhere where we can find you guys, and we'll wrap this thing up. Wolf.
You can find me on my channel, Mega Movies, where I do a bunch of reviews, interviews. I just interviewed Charlotte Cragen from In a Violent Nature, and I'm going to be doing a review for Inside Out 2 this weekend, so you guys can be on the lookout for that. And yeah, just a lot of really fun stuff. And of course, Austin himself does a show with me. We do a monthly mistake drinking game on there, so we'll be doing Jaws: The Revenge closer to the end of June this year.
Jaws 3D last year around 4th of July, so we got to do Jaws: The Revenge this year, the other bad one. So
so that'll be a sign. So you guys can definitely stay tuned for that one and a whole lot more. So
yeah, Richie, anything you got going on?
Lonely Marks here in a few minutes. So check out on our new channel, Lonely Marks, on our Lonely Marks Wrestling channel here. And doing a Wrestle Crap draft. That's what I was talking about. I'm probably talking about
Clash of the Castle
news and Clash of the Castle. Check that out. And more all other trivia spaces as well. So yeah.
As far as me goes, like Richie said, we got a brand new channel for Lonely Marks exclusive to that, the Lonely Marks Wrestling Podcast channel. So you can check that out. We've been sharing the links in the Movie Hero Network Facebook group and a lot of our personal channels and whatnot. So you can head over there and subscribe. We'll try to let everybody know over the next few weeks that that's where you can find it now. And that's going to be a lot of fun. We're wrapping up the 2003 ladder series here on the Movie Hero Network this week. Tomorrow night will be our half bracket kind of wrap up. And then I'll be on Ryan Permison's channel. It's called And I Quote, doing a double dose of Indiana Jones anniversary watch-alongs, because both Temple of Doom and Last Crusade are celebrating anniversaries. So we're doing Temple of Doom Saturday night for its 40th anniversary, and the 35th anniversary of Last Crusade on Father's Day, appropriately enough, because a great father-son relationship in that movie. So that'll be some good stuff there. Other than that, that'll wrap it up for tonight. We don't know what movie we're doing next. We'll spin the wheel, I'm sure, in the next week or so. We'll figure out what we're doing. As long as it's not Simon Says, we'll probably do something. And, again, it's not so much about the movie. We just need material, and we need to be able to see it, So sorry to any movie that just doesn't have a lot of meat on its bones, but Galaxy Quest was a perfect movie to talk about. A lot of things in there. So good discussion, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. Yeah.
One more final note, because Richie mentioned the Santa Claus thing. I had the movie on the background, like on mute, because I've seen it so many times while I was watching, and I had subtitles. And he actually mentions when he's talking to Mathazar that he's saying like, it's like Christmas trees and Christmas lights, it's all fake. Like, he explains it, like he compares it to Christmas. So it's funny.
Yeah, and I think the Santa Claus might be on somebody's list on that wheel somewhere amongst the 1,700 movies. So,
so maybe a Christmas in July situation will happen.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But there's a bunch of movies on there. We never know what we're going to spend. We just need something we can talk about. That's all it is. That's the only criteria. Just something we can talk about for an hour. That'll do it for tonight for Galaxy Quest. Thank you, everybody who watches this either live or on the replay. We certainly appreciate it. Yeah, jump over to the Lonely Marks Wrestling Podcast channel if you want to hear me and Richie talk about some wrestling. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wolf, for joining us as one of your favorite movies. Appreciate it. Thank you to my co-host, Richie. Thanks for joining me tonight. And that'll do it for tonight until our next episode of Wheel of Movies. We'll see you guys later. Thanks.